Victorian Opera acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respect to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Hill-Cooper, CEO of Victorian Opera. Welcome to our home base here at Hawty Hall, the beautiful Hemstritch studio. We are live here in the studio from our rehearsals of Respighi's The Sleeping Beauty, and I'm very grateful today to have our director Nancy Black with us and two of our wonderful performers, Leanne Keegan and Christian Bagan. Welcome and thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
Hello.
Hi.
Now, firstly, it's so nice to be back in the rehearsal studio. What's it like to finally, after such a long break, be working on a production that we're going to present for the audiences? Nancy?
Well, it was, of course, you know, after nearly a year of being by yourself, essentially, sort of, I mean, so exciting just to think about going back and working with people face to face and collaborating and creating something great. And then the reality was scary. Because did you know how to talk to such a big group of people? No. There were all kinds of skills that had to be learned again. And we, you know, there's an underlying fear. Are we going to make people sick? How can we stay safe? How can we reassure everyone? And then it begins. You start. And the old magic begins to happen again, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Leanne, we've seen you a fair bit in the COVID lockdown period in various digital formats. What's it like to actually be amongst it all again?
Oh, it's fantastic. I did 2 solo concerts with piano, and to be working with real live other human beings and a director and our beautiful puppeteers, it's just fantastic.
Yeah.
Slightly surreal, but fantastic.
And what about you, Christian?
Well, it's just amazing to be back in the rehearsal room. Like last year was a bit of a write-off for most puppeteers and performers in general, so it's just, yeah, it's an amazing feeling.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. Well, we're all returning to this very special production, Ottorino Respighi's The Sleeping Beauty, which Victorian Opera originally staged in 2017. Can you tell us a little bit about the opera, Nancy?
Yeah, it's a retelling of a famous, well-known, much-loved fairy tale, and he's pretty faithful to the form that was eventually published by the Brothers Grimm. When you go into it, it's a tale about life. It's a tale about love. It's a loss, about grief, about resilience, about love, and he keeps building these contrasts into it. And he builds them and weaves them through the music and through the libretto and through the actions, and the energy of the opera comes from these extraordinary juxtapositions. And one of the things that's really exciting about it is that when Respighi wrote it, he wove all these contemporary, for that time, music threads into it, because he was really, and in the end it comes out into the 1940s, which was an imagined future for him. And he wrote it as I think, an image, a picture of the dynamics of life. And I know that sounds like a huge statement, but it's true.
Thanks, Nancy. Well, obviously, Nancy, you were part of the original production, but for you, Leanne and Christian, what's it like to revisit it from 2017 to 2021?
Well, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, like all shows, when you come back to it, you find new things. And even though we rehearsed it for a while, it's really lovely to see new cast and the old cast. You get the same puppet back and you just find new expressions and you go, wow, oh, we didn't know you could do that. Yeah. And we're just finding that left, right and centre. So, I mean, shows really grow when you remount them the second time, and it's certainly happening this time too with this show. Yeah.
And what about for you, Leanne?
Well, today we worked on the shadow puppetry, which was a revelation to me. I'd never done any puppetry when we did it first time round. So I'm behind the scenes quite a bit of the time, which is absolutely wonderful to be a part of. And today, Nancy basically redesigned with the puppeteers this wonderful scene. It's a tiny scene, but it's going to be so beautiful. So it's really exciting to be bringing those new elements into the show.
Oh, fantastic. Well, let's have a look at our production from 2017. Peter, backstage. Thanks. That was the Chorus of the Stars from Respighi's The Sleeping Beauty, a 2017 production featuring our performance partner, Orchestra Victoria. Nancy, watching that clip is just so special, and the seamless integration between the puppetry and the human element with the singers. How did you approach the work?
Well, Respighi first wrote this for a puppetry company, but in that production in 1921, he he used marionettes, which are the puppets on strings, and the singers were either in the orchestra pit or in the wings. And I thought that this is partly because I believe that since the beginning of language that mankind has used storytelling to make itself feel better and to understand life and to celebrate our successes and explain our failures. And so for me, the singers in this production represent a community that has just suffered a terrible catastrophe. And they are telling themselves a story, and they use puppets to tell the story. They are contemporary. The puppets are from long ago. It's a long ago tale. And gradually the puppets become, they're part of their imagination. They are emanations of themselves. They are expressions of their own dreams and hopes. And what we are looking at is how dynamic that relationship is. So absolutely I had to have the singers on the stage because it's they are the storytellers, but they're using puppets.
Here comes trouble.
And gradually through the piece, that relationship becomes closer and closer until they're shadows and reflections of one another.
Thank you. Now, Leanne and Christian have a particularly special relationship in this work. How do you find that special working relationship between puppet and singer, voice and character? How does it come about, Leanne?
Well, I think I'm very fortunate. Thank you, darling. Thank you, darling. I'm very fortunate that I have Christian as my puppeteer because he's beautifully collaborative. And so we've bounced ideas off each other when we run the scene, and Nancy's extraordinary like that too, because she's allowed us to experiment and play together. Yeah. That's something that doesn't normally happen in opera, and it's been a revelation to me working with the puppets. I normally sing hags, bags, old cows and witches, and this old lady is an absolute joy, but made more of a joy because of the work I get to do with Christian and Nancy.
Do you have anything to add to that, old lady? Thank you very much. Leanne, tell us what it's like working with Christian and the other puppeteers.
Oh, you'd better leave now, pet, I think, if I'm going to talk about you. Well, opera can be perceived as being quite staid, and there's a lot of criticism about opera, about it being this sort of traditional art form. But brilliant composers like Respighi have tried to turn that concept on its head along the way. And it was very interesting to me to come into this, not having worked with puppeteers. I'd worked with ballet dancers on stage before, but never with puppeteers. And it really did make me think more about my physical form as that character. Even though we were not as involved the first time around, there were different characteristics that we picked up on that the puppet did and that I could do, and vice versa. And it's this extraordinary collaboration. The puppeteers are all very, very flexible, very collaborative people. And sometimes opera singers cannot be that collaborative and flexible, I might say, having been a singer now for 30 years. But it's been a breath of fresh air working with them. Not only that, but they're all stretching and limbering up and doing all those sorts of things that singers don't do. So every now and then we all find ourselves doing stretches and all of these sorts of things as well. No, it's been fantastic, and I've been absolutely looking forward to coming back to do it again.
Oh, wonderful. Nancy, this particular opera has a lot of parallels to contemporary and a lot of relevance, particularly to 2021. It's 100 years old. Could you tell us something about those parallels?
Well, when Respighi wrote this in 1921, Italy was crawling out from the end of World War I and the terrible devastation wrought by the Spanish flu. And I think that Respighi gives us a community that is filled with hope and joy and a wonderful future. This couple have been able to have a baby that they had been hoping to have for so long. And then life throws them a curved ball. I know it's a baseball term. But out of nowhere, there is a catastrophe. And they are warned that this is coming. They do everything they can to prevent it, and they fail. And it's terrible. Their grief and their rage and their sense of powerlessness against it. There's nothing they can do. And they have to go into lockdown, which is something about grief, and it's about loss, and it's your time of healing. And when they come out, they are released by an injection of love, by a new life, and it's a new world. And they have to adapt. And Respighi just gives you that little moment of adaptation. And then, of course, there is, representatives in what Respighi gave us of people that you will recognize today. And that is staggering. But for me, it's of course about COVID. And our singers are all of us who have known so much loss, and families and communities and societies around the world. And this is a piece that says hope, that there's still the capacity to joy.
And who's this gorgeous creature?
This is our king. And he's a remarkable puppet, actually. He's a remarkable character, I think, because unbelievably vulnerable and emotional. He has no control over his emotions whatsoever. He's volatile, he's tender, he's loving, and he's filled with rage. And he's a bit of an idiot. but you just love him.
Yeah.
And when their child wakes up and falls in love with a new guy, whoa, it's hard.
One of the things that I find so charming about this production, I've been lucky enough to work with you and the team this year on some of the movement aspects, but I love that there's shadow puppetry and there's puppetry that people inhabit and there's puppetry that people manipulate through rods, and you get to see everything in this production. It's a real grab bag of Puppetry 101, really, isn't it?
Yeah, but we are using all different styles of puppetry, and also some of the things that we are doing are pushing boundaries.
Yeah.
There are going to be purists who are going to go. And it's hilariously funny.
Yes, it
you
is
know,
hilariously funny.
I think one of the things that Respighi is saying to us throughout this, what can you do? What can you, he said, laughter is the...
Now you know what it's like for us, Nancy, trying to compete with them.
Laughter is one of the best healing tools we have, and it's wonderful. You know, we were all rolling on the floor last week, and Phoebe and I looked at each other at the end of rehearsal and said, oh, that made me feel so much better.
Yeah. So we've had a couple of questions from our live panel out there. Thank you very much. So one of the questions that's come through on our computer here is, how many puppets are there in total?
4.
There's a few more than 4, Christian.
Not just your puppets, Christian.
I think there's 27.
27 puppets.
Sometimes there may be 28. It's just a question of whether we put a bird back in or not.
Thank you. And okay, so another one of our questions is, how long did it take you to put the piece together in the first place?
Well, it's, you know, we rehearsed for 4 weeks or 3 weeks and then a 4th week of production week. This is kind of like our 3rd draft. And it's such a luxury to come back and just dig deeper and polish and finesse and keep discovering new things. My God, I never thought that would happen. It's just wonderful.
So there's a question here for Christian.
Yes.
What's your favourite puppet to operate?
If you don't mind, I won't answer that today because
So
it's not this one. It's this puppet.
Thank you. And Leanne, people want to know what's your favourite section of the opera, either in it or watching it.
My favourite section is when Sleeping Beauty goes to sleep. It's a really beautiful transition scene, and I absolutely adore the way Nancy's done that.
Thank you. And our final question today is, there's lots of humour and joy. We've talked about that a lot today, lots of laughter. What do you think our audiences will feel and walk away from the theatre feeling after they've seen it?
I think they will walk away, I hope, feeling better than they walked in. But they will have been on a roller coaster ride of emotions. And I think they'll be slightly amazed by what has been expressed to them.
Fantastic. Well, Nancy, Leanne and Christian, and our king, thank you so much, and toi 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 for the season.
Thank you.
Respighi's The Sleeping Beauty with Orchestra of Victoria is at the Palais Theatre, St Kilda. It's 4 performances only, 20, 23, 25 and 26th of February. All performances are at 7:30. Tickets are very limited, so you better get on and book soon. Tickets start from $39, and we love to see you there. Thank you again for being us. Thank you to all our technical team, and good night from Victorian Opera.